when I was on furlough in Sacramento. You guys were living in Sacramento, and Don was working in a restaurant down the main boulevard from where I lived, and I would go up and talk with him all the time, see him. We had you guys over for Thanksgiving, and I don't remember that.
I do.
But anyway, but Art Nunn, the associational missionary, had me go over and preach at his church up there, in an older section of town. It was run down, handful of people. They just they were dead, they just hadn't had the funeral yet. But nice people, sweet people. So I went back home and I called Art. I said, Art, and of course, at that point in time, your dad thought that he was done.
Uh-huh.
No, Don, you're not done. Yeah, okay. We had that conversation more than one time. And so I called Art. I said, do you know a guy named Don Overstreet? He says, no. I said, you haven't met him yet. I says, he's a missionary back from the Caribbean. And it's that situation in his family, but he's here. You need to go meet Don. You need to get him to go over to that church and get him to help him to be pastor of that church. And he'll bring that church back alive. And so Art did. And of course, you were there, even though how much you remember of it.
Yeah.
And I guess in 6 months, Don was starting another church out of that church that I said, just have the funeral, you know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
That was just ironic.
Uh,
And Don just had that gift, all right? And did a great job at it. That's just all there was to it. I also had told Don that one of these days that the Lord was going to send him a new wife.
huh.
And of course he said, no, that's not going to happen. My ministry's done. Your dad was pretty low,
Yeah.
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 But I tell you what, I said, Don, when you find her, you call me. I want to meet her. Oh, sorry, that ain't going to happen. So one day the phone rings, okay? Hey, Don, how are you? And there's a kind of a long pause. And I said, you found her, huh? And he said, yeah. And he wanted me to meet her. And so my Ruth Ann couldn't go that day. She had something. So we went down to the Poor Boys restaurant down there.
I remember
and I
place.
met her and her mother and just had a great time. And Don, the Lord sent Don what he needed.
That's right.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yep.
She was half of what she sells for. She was still great. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
To me, just from a distance, I just loved her because of what she did for Don
Yeah.
and you kids.
Yep.
And then that put life also back in. Lord he got his ministry back and he got his life back.
Yeah.
So you guys have had it. I told Don one day, I said, hang it. I said, this thing of me trying to get ready for retirements for the birds, I'm just going to cash it all in, and I'm just going to come and live with you. You're taking in everybody else. You might as well take me in.
There it is. That's for sure.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you would take care of everybody.
Yeah, that's true. No, I tell you, there isn't anybody I had any more appreciation for than your dad.
Amen. Me too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nothing like him.
He just quietly went about his business, and the Lord blessed him and used him, in a mighty way.
Yeah.
How old was he when he died?
Oh, he's 71.
71.
Yeah,
So
71.
he kind of died young, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he lasted longer than expected with his liver.
Yeah.
They gave him, it gave it another 15 years after his transplant.
Yeah, so he'd have been gone in his
15
50s.
years. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, God said not yet.
And when most guys would have been homesick, he was still out working.
Oh, he would go out sick. He would go out there in pain and just knew that he needed to be out there, and by God's strength and his weakness,
So how long has he been gone now?
December 8th, it'll be 2 years this December.
Oh, December 8th.
Yeah.
So Ruth Ann died on January 8th
Oh, wow.
of this year.
This year,
so,
yeah.
So she's been gone. She'll be. So he was
been
just
6
71
months.
when he died,
Yeah, just.
and so I
months
was
ago.
almost 10 years older than he was.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. I didn't know how much older I was.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out too. That's
Yeah.
why I had to ask you how old you are.
I was always the young guy, Kirk,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I became the old guy, and nobody told me.
Right.
You know.
So tell me what was your first memory of when you guys first met? Must have been at a conference in the islands or something,
I
or
don't-
did you come out to St. Vincent, or did you come out to Barbados?
I really. It's one of those deals that just say, "Well, I've always known Don," but I can't go back and I know who he was, but I really didn't know him until we went to the Caribbean together. Okay.
What was that like?
What?
What was that like in the Caribbean?
Well, I remember one time that I got on the airplane with 2 suitcases full of diapers for you, and
Thank you.
And I went over there and saw everybody and talked to everybody and visited with them, and got back on the night plane and went back home.
Nice.
You know.
You're the diaper man.
And so we learned. So we became friends.
Yeah.
During that time, as you know, and of course all the missionaries were so different, and the islands were so different. It always amazed me. It amazed me how here's the situation, and God would put this person and his wife in that situation. And I came away more than one time. We can do everything we can to shortchange, to keep it from happening, but the Lord still gets who He wants.
Yeah.
In His place.
Amen. That's right.
You know.
Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect for what they were doing. And Don was one of those guys at St. Vincent. He fit St. Vincent like a hand in a glove.
Wow.
Not only while he was there, but he's gone back through the years.
Yeah.
You know. And then there were the Loves in Guyana. I went down there and said, wow, these people fit this place, you know?
Yeah.
And almost everywhere I went there in the Caribbean, the Walkers in Dominica, tough place in Dominica. And they were just fit right in.
Right.
You know, that's what God did. He just put everybody in there where they belonged. And I learned a lesson. And because I took for my verse was Galatians 4:4, and that is that in the fullness of time, God sent forth His Son.
Right.
And I always said, well, if God knows when and where and how to send His Son, and He sure does know how to, where and when to send me.
Yeah, that's good.
You know.
Yeah, I like that.
And even on the way,
Amen.
Flying to Puerto Rico, on our way to Barbados, I said, Lord, I don't know why I'm doing this. And you know, and I'll come back to that in a minute.
Right.
I really didn't want to do this, but I know that I had to do it. And I'm going.
Right.
But if you ever give me 15 seconds peace, I'm going back to California. California's the greatest mission field in the world.
I agree to that.
So I knew I was going.
Right.
But see, I served on the Foreign Mission Board, and I was sitting with Charles Bryan one time in one of our meetings in Richmond, and sitting in the break room. And I said, Charles, the Lord's opened up a ministry for me for my church to take my trained people and go train churches on Saturdays, teachers on an age group basis. And we drove all over that place doing that.
Yeah.
And I said, if you ever get where you would have a need for that, let me know, and I'd be glad to give time to that and
Right.
vacation time to that.
Yeah.
He said, Jerry, what you're talking about is the number one thing we need the most.
Mm.
And it was all English speaking.
Mm-hmm.
In my dumb mind, I thought that you had to be a foreign missionary and you speak a foreign language.
Right, right,
And I have no language aptitude in any shape, form, or fashion.
right.
I make no bones about it. I'm not
Yeah.
ashamed of it.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of life. But he said, Jerry, and then at that point in time, the world opened up. The Caribbean is English,
Uh-huh.
okay? And he said, that's what we need.
Mm.
And my wife and I had tried to go 2 years before. Nothing went in place, okay?
Right.
Kurt, when I was sitting there, and once he said that, and all those things lined up that had been boom, boom, boom,
Right.
boom,
Yeah.
the Lord called me right then. And he moved so strong in my heart
Mm.
that I thought I was having a heart attack.
Wow.
Literally.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Straight to the heart.
overpowering.
Yeah.
Okay? And I said, Lord, I'll go.
Mm.
Don't know why. Don't want to, but love
You
California.
experienced that power to say,
But-
okay,
but hey, if you
yes,
told me to
God.
go,
Yes,
that's
Lord.
why I said, if you ever give me 15 seconds to peace, I'm going back.
Right.
You know what I mean? That
Uh-huh.
type of thing.
Uh-huh.
And so from that day forward, in less than 5 months, we were going away to the mission field.
Right.
Because Leslie and them were getting older.
Uh-huh.
I said, you got to go now. I said, let's
Right.
go. And,
Wow.
and we got there.
What year was that? What was the first year? you guys went?
1975. We
75.
got there, so 75, 76, 77, 78. And we got there on New Year's night in 1975.
Wow.
And
That was 3 days before I was born.
yeah,
I was born January 4th, 1975.
yeah. When did your folks go down? They came 2 years later, didn't they?
I think I was 2, so it was
Yeah.
77,
Yeah.
about then.
But anyway, that we had a great ministry, had a enjoyable ministry, but I got home. I hadn't been home 24 hours, and the church called me, who knew me,
Uh-huh.
wanted to know if I'd come and be pastor. I said, no, I just got home. I can't do that. I said, the Lord sure hasn't released me from what I'm
Right.
doing, so there's no need for us to even talk.
Yeah.
And so we didn't, but had everything packed up, ready to go back. Glenn Payton called me. We sat down and talked in California. What I was doing in the Caribbean, I could do with the Anglo people, the Hispanic people, the Asian people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and the Chinese people,
Right.
and all these people instead of just one group.
Right. Right.
And so that challenged me.
That is a big
It
change.
probably broke my wife's heart because she was a good missionary. But
She-
anyway,
yeah.
we came home, and I was laying in bed one night. And she woke up. I was awake, and she says, "What's wrong?" I said, "My heart's hurting." "Oh, no!" I said, "I'm not having a heart attack."
Right.
Because I said, "I know this is something that you don't want, but I know you're willing to do it, and it's something that I feel I need to do."
Wow.
And so they opened that door, and we did. Time we left 10 years later, and they threw everything away. I had Anglo teams, I had Hispanic teams, Chinese teams, and Korean teams could go into their own churches
Uh-huh.
and train by age group
Right.
for every age group that was taught.
Wow.
We trained them to do their own work.
Yeah.
And we went into the Caribbean, and we had this in Barbados. We brought in 89 people,
Oh, wow.
from all, 5 people from each island that we get.
Uh-huh.
Federal officer, adult, youth, children, preschool. And we taught those people, here's your age division.
Right.
Here's the characteristics of it. Here are the principles of it. Here are the materials for you, and we're going to teach you how to teach it.
Right.
And the pastor in Guyana said that he didn't feel anybody could go somewhere for such a short time and come back so well trained.
Huh.
So we also did that among the Anglo, the Hispanic, the Chinese, and the Koreans in California.
Right.
And but anyway, in Trinidad, we went to Trinidad for one of those things, the training sessions where they were doing all the teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So at break time, my wife and I were standing there talking to people, and this lady came up who'd been with Ruth Ann in her classes and stuff, and said, "Oh, Ruth Ann, look what you've done today." And my wife sweetly took her by her hands, and she says, "No, this is what you have done
There
today."
it is. Yeah, that's good.
And she turned to the girl
own
she
it.
brought with her and said, "See, I told you that we were the type of missionaries that we weren't doing the job. We were training them to do the job."
Exactly.
And that's what the job's all about.
Amen. Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and that's hard work.
Right.
That's hard work to do that. But I never will forget that lady. "See, I told you."
Yeah.
You know, and that was verification that we had done. And I was sitting in Guyana, and I was trying to get my hands on stuff, and I had written to the guy who had been in Guyana, who had been the education guy, so to speak. And I said, "Well, what did you do? What do you feel would work? What can you do to help me understand the area?"
Right.
And he wrote back and said to me, and he sent me a page, it was Jesus the teacher.
Mm.
And he said, "If you can get this across in 4 years, you'll have done a good job."
Yeah.
And I sat there in that chair, and I read that, and I said, "Lord, if this is all you sent me here to do,
Right.
we're wasting time. I'm going to go home," but I wasn't going to quit. But I said, I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to do what I know. I'm going to teach them the principles, not a program, not the idea, the principles. And we majored on that for 4 years.
Wow.
And when we went back to Florida for a meeting or something, there was a guy named Modi Singh from Guyana. He said, "Jerry, I need to talk to you." "Okay, Modi." Because I always liked Modi, and his brother, like me, named one of his kids after me, who was a farmer who made $36. Well, that's a whole different story. But anyway, Modi said, "Jerry," he said, "every missionary that came to us had a program for us to do. And after a while, we quit doing those programs."
Yeah.
He says, "But we're still doing what you taught us." And I says, "Modi, I wasn't teaching you, what I was teaching you wasn't a program. It was a principle.
Mm-hmm.
You go out and start a new unit, you're going to get some more people.
Right.
You train a teacher, you're going to get some more people."
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and Modi and his brother was named Tok Kerr, the farmer. He was the first one that was saved, and they were the mafia of their area. Well, I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Literally. And then now we're on the boat one day, and I asked this one guy that was related. I said, "Hey, tell me about your conversion experience." He said, "Well," he said, "I tried to do my best to stay away from Modi and Tok Kerr," but he said they waited for me one day on the way home from school, or something, and they attacked me and held me down and told me the story.
That's funny.
And I got saved. Oh yeah.
That's hilarious. So they tackled him to share the gospel.
And Tok Kerr made $36. He had a bunch of kids,
Uh-huh.
and he made $36 a month, American
Wow.
money.
Wow.
And he gave his, that's me, my ear,
Okay.
he gave Modi about 30 of it
Mm.
to go down to Parika, right where 3 or 4 rivers came into the same little town,
Mm-hmm.
to go down there and start a church.
Wow. Wow.
I
$30.
I said, now Modi, what you can do, and just all you got is one room. You can have a class in every corner and one in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, hey, he saw me and said, hey Jerry, he says, I got 4 classes,
That's
and
cool.
they got 100 in Sunday school.
Wow.
You know, I mean, it was
Wow.
just something that was
Yeah.
that those guys. And then Top Kerr, one of his children was born was a boy,
Mm-hmm.
and his name is Jerry Singh.
Mm.
You know, so
Yeah.
I never
That's
met
funny.
I never met his family or
Yeah.
never met the boy, but I always thought that was quite an honor.
That
you know.
is. Yeah. Someone to
But-
name.
I had a
after
great
you.
time in the Caribbean. The biggest problem I had was the other missionaries, but that was a way that always would, it seemed like,
All right. Yeah.
all
That
the
still goes
missionaries.
on.
fight on their own islands, and all the missionaries on the other islands was their friends. Yeah, it just
That's
drove me
hilarious.
crazy, because that wasn't the case with Don,
Yeah.
but that was the case.
He was by himself. That's why.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true.
You didn't have a team to deal with. That's crazy.
But anyway.